the perception of what's happening here is not the reality that's on the ground.
Yes, that's it.
The folks back there think that we're like dodging bombs every 8 minutes, when in reality we are all living our lives completely normal. There is not one thing that I would say in our 24-hour daily life that
Is affected.
that insinuates that we have any inconvenience.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of No Briefing Podcast. I'm Jose Silva and today I'm with Yassin Ya Boudaoud, Chief Commercial Officer and Managing Partner at Brinc. Yasin was born in Hong Kong, built his career across different markets and has spent many years connecting Asia and the Middle East. So today I want to have a very open conversation and real, because this is about no briefing, about investment, where are the opportunities really are and how the Middle East is currently perceived, which markets we should be watching. And before we speak about markets and investment, I want to start with you, Yasin. How are you?
First
All good?
of all, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me here, Joao. We've
It's
been
a
talking
pleasure.
about this for quite some time.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that we're actually able to get in the studio, have a good conversation, and hopefully provide some kind of insight into what's happening, obviously, in the region, between Asia, between MENA. And yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, we want real talks.
Okay.
We want like not the polished picture, but the true
I'll
information.
give you the real deal of what's happening. I mean, I just got back. I was in Vietnam about 2.5 weeks ago. We just set up our new office there. But yeah, I mean, Asia is on fire. I mean, we were speaking about earlier. Asia's on
Yes.
fire. So much potential, so much growth. And I think the key right now is how do we connect those two things together?
Yeah, that's one of the points that we want to discuss. But before, so people can know
Yeah.
a bit more about you.
Sure. So my family actually, my father immigrated to Hong Kong in 1976. One of the first people to kind of enter the Asian market. He came from Syria. He was just doing business and trading, and then we got into the manufacturing, set up our family office there, which has been established since '76, and it's still there today, between Guangzhou and Hong Kong. And predominantly what we do is we manufacture and export everything and anything. Now, past that, I went from Hong Kong and then I went to Canada. I spent about 15 years there. And then from Canada, I went to Egypt. I spent about 3 or 4 years there in the manufacturing sector. And then finally, I moved to China. That was, I would say, where I got my MBA. And I don't mean my actual MBA. I mean, like, I just learned so much about like what China was. And not the China that's today. The China today is obviously far more advanced, far more developed. I'm talking about China like the early 2000s, where honestly, like, we used to call it like the Wild Wild West. You know what I mean? Like, you go there and, you can literally buy anything, find anything, export it, make money, create a market. Obviously, things are different now. And I think what's interesting is that people have learned in that time period too, is that there are quality products from China. So we were in the golden age, I would say, in the early 2000s, all the way up to about maybe pre-COVID. And then from there, I actually joined Brinc. I don't want to say by accident, but it wasn't planned. I was moving to the Middle East. I was in Guangzhou. I had lived there for 10 years, and I'm like, I want to go to the Middle East. I want to start something there, and I left. And when I was going, Brinc had been launched. It was launched by the two co-founders, Bashar and Manaf, who are very good friends of mine, and they had asked me to join, maybe in the first 6 months of building the company. And then I got to Bahrain, and I had no idea what I was doing. I had just joined a company. And I started talking to folks in Bahrain and understanding their ecosystem, what the startups are doing, the corporate side, the government side. And we started working with them closely to figure out what does Bahrain need to do to get on the map. So we kind of wrote a white paper, built a real kind of 5-year strategy in terms of what the kingdom has to do to develop a real ecosystem. And then from there, COVID happened. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we're very fortunate, even pre-COVID, we were growing, the market was growing here. And then post-COVID, we started expanding across the whole region. So we went to Muscat, we set up in Qatar, Saudi, and of course in Dubai
UAE.
and Abu Dhabi. And then when it all came together, I spent about 10 years in Bahrain. And then finally, I made the decision to move to the UAE. I chose personally to move to Abu Dhabi. I'm sure anyone who's hearing this or anyone who knows me knows that I'm a very strong advocate of what Abu Dhabi stands for. And I love being there, and I don't foresee myself leaving anytime in the future. And we've only been expanding. We're knee-deep working with the government on a lot of initiatives in terms of supporting early-stage entrepreneurs, students, and really help driving the ecosystem to create as many companies as they can to solve as many problems as we can.
Yeah, so we mentioned that when you moved to Bahrain, we started with the white paper to build up something to put Bahrain in the roadmap.
Yeah.
And did you get it? How it worked?
So listen, the government in Bahrain was unbelievably amazing in terms of how nimble, and I say this to everybody, you can literally pick up the phone, and if you know a few people, you can probably get a minister on a call. You know what I mean? They're very open to meet with you. They're very
entrepreneurs.
Open-minded. Very, very entrepreneurship, but also very accessible. It's a very small place. Bahrain is,
Yes.
It's like the size of like a backyard in like the UAE. So it's very small. But I will tell you that the workforce is unbelievable. Until today, our back office, so our HR, our finance, our marketing, all that's run out of Bahrain because they had amazing talent. And if I can just do even a shout out, I would probably say that the best females I've ever worked with in the world, put aside China, is Bahrain. The women are unbelievably strong, very well educated, very well versed, and very hard workers. It worked out well. We actually ran a program there for 5 years. We did about 25 investments. We were one of 3 accelerators that were invited to come. We built a 8,000 square foot co-working space with Betelco, which is a local operator. We even built another project, which was a co-working space called Diwan, which was about 7,800 square feet. And that's still operational today. So all of this is operational today. So, we can say that we've been in Bahrain now for over 10 years. And we still run programs for early stage entrepreneurs called Mashru'i, which is all about how do you take an early stage entrepreneur, give them ideas, incubate them, and then take them through the process. We're working with corporates like Alba and Al Salam Bank. So, we're still happy to be there, and I think we'll always be there. We will never leave Bahrain.
Yeah, and a piece of your heart is still there as well, right?
Well, a piece of my heart. I had one son that grew up there. I had one son that was born there. And I have many Bahraini friends, and honestly, it's really one of the best places, I would say, after Abu Dhabi.
Great. You are a Chief Commercial Officer and also Managing Partner at Brinc. So what does your role involve? What do you do every day? What is your day? What is one day in your life?
One day in my life is and again, I'm very fortunate. I love what I do, and to be honest with you, success doesn't come from me. It comes from the people who I work with. And what I do every day is connect the dots between all of our commercial engagements and aspirations between all of our global offices. So we have offices in Vietnam, in Hong Kong, in Seoul, in Japan, and that's one side of our network. And then the other side is, as I mentioned, in the GCC. So we have Muscat, Bahrain, Saudi, UAE, and Qatar. And I was just telling you earlier that I just came back from Kuwait. So
yes.
maybe Kuwait is next.
It's another.
But really, there's so much value that's happening in all these places, whether it's startups, whether it's corporates looking for innovation, whether it's anything to do around tech, entrepreneurship, and more importantly, solving problems. And my responsibility is to speak to an MD who's in Korea who has solutions, for example, for something that we're working on now with the Abu Dhabi government, or we're trying to help, is they have the Mohammed bin Zayed water initiative.
Okay.
So this is a project and an NGO that has been spun out by the federal government, all focused on how do we solve not just Abu Dhabi, but global problems around water and conservation, how to use it, how to filter it, all these things. So my responsibility is I'm getting requests here saying, hey, we have this issue, we want to solve it. So what I do is I then go pick up the phone and say, hey, guys in Korea, what do we have in this field, right? And this literally just happened last week. And they said, listen, we have 2 or 3 amazing companies who are willing to come, set up in Abu Dhabi, potentially join the challenge, solve the problem, and get involved. So it's really connecting the dots between this side and that side. And I would say between me and I have one of my colleagues, Tom, who works with me, we're the ones who are kind of moving all these chess pieces around and seeing how they fit together.
Yeah, very interesting. You work, as you mentioned, with the corporate and also with the startup ecosystems. Startup is very different market than like a corporate established institution, organization. How do you feel the differences between both the market opportunities here in the UAE? Because as obviously with the conflict and everything, the market changed and the perception of the market is a bit unstable. What is the real situation at the moment?
So, look, in all honesty, like I just got back from Vietnam and the month before I was in Hong Kong. The perception of what's happening here is not the reality that's on the ground.
Yes, that's it.
The folks back there think that we're like dodging bombs every 8 minutes, when in reality we are all living our lives completely normal. There is not one thing that I would say in our 24-hour daily life that
is affected.
That insinuates that we have any inconvenience.
Yes.
Leadership here should probably get some kind of an award for saying creating the best lifestyle in a conflict.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Because I mean, I've never seen anything like this myself, but
me neither. I think anyone in the world.
No.
It's the first time.
So that's the perception abroad. The reality on the ground, though, is actually very different. We at Brinc are very fortunate to say that with our partners that we've worked with, which is like the EDB, ADGMA, DET, Khalifa University, all of them have actually accelerated what they want to do. So I'll give you an example. Like we work with the Emirates Development Bank, and we run the Made in the Emirates, which is the program which is focused around folks who want to manufacture in the UAE. We were supposed to do and engage 10 companies and accelerate them and coach them and take them through the process. They came back after the conflict and said, listen, we asked you to do 10, we'd like you to do 20 now.
10, yeah.
Right? So it's really interesting. And what's crazy is that even in like Abu Dhabi, you would think like construction would stop, things would slow down, and all I see are things are getting faster.
And why do you think that is happening? Why do you think that they have like for 10 and now they want 20?
Look, I think that the UAE has always had a problem-solving mentality. And I think what they've learned over the last 6 months with this conflict is saying, hey, we've been trying to solve problems like energy, food security, many problems. And now they're saying, look, based on what's happened now, we need to move faster. Yeah. We need to be more resilient. We need to be more responsible for our own fate and not depend on others.
Yeah.
And that's why they're saying, no, we need to start tackling these things now. We're not going to be waiting 3-4 years to solve some of these problems.
Yeah, you need to be proactive than reactive, right?
And they have the resources. I mean, look, there's fantastic talent here. It's still a great market. Like, I mean, as much as you see what's happened in the media and, what, Taco Trump is doing, at the end of the day, the fundamentals have not changed, really, in the UAE. They're still trying to attract the people that want to come. Mm-hmm. They're still trying to attract the right folks who should be here. They're still attracting investment. Like one thing that, I mean, and you were just mentioning about Abu Dhabi, is that property prices have gone up.
Yes.
And
the real estate market is growing.
I don't understand, but again, it's the market positioning of what they're doing here. For example, Abu Dhabi now is, in my opinion, probably the latest product to come out of the UAE.
Yes.
And the product of Abu Dhabi is we want the right people to come live here. We want people who want to add value to the economy. We want people who are educated, people who are, just really great thinkers, entrepreneurs, investors, right? People who want to be part of something special.
Yes.
Right? I'm not downplaying Dubai, but Dubai was a very different approach. Dubai was like, let's get every single person we can here.
Yeah, and also rely on tourism. And now the tourism is not good.
No, tourism is it'll bounce back. There's no question about that.
Yes.
So back to your question, do I see the growth coming? Yes. The government has doubled down, and there's still, there are still people coming here. Like a very interesting thing is that, people who are planning to move in September from, let's say, they planned last year or whatever it is, they're still coming. No one has said that we're not coming. Because once you look past all the media and all these
and
things,
you see the reality.
You see the reality. Like
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Like my partner Manav, who is the co-founder and CEO of Brinc, he came in June, and he came and he's like, in Hong Kong, it seems like everything is broken down. He's like, I'm coming here. Zuma is full. The restaurants are full. Everyone's out and about. He's like, I don't get it.
Yeah. What is the reality and the media? But this is one problem.
Exactly.
And so basically the investors that we engage with, if they want to invest on a startup, what are the risks they take? Because a lot of investors, they want to reduce their risks, and it's part of the game, right?
Of course.
What you can advise and how you see this?
Well, I mean, it also depends on the stage of investment that they're going in. Always the riskiest is the early stage. The early stage, obviously, you can get huge returns and lots of potential. I always say is that you need to look at the fundamentals of the business. Like one thing that I can tell you that I will never invest in, maybe this might change with AI in the future, but in general, don't invest in like one person founder businesses, right?
Yeah, this is another question. For you, what is special to invest? Is the founder, is the product, is the potential? What do you look on?
Look, there's a couple things. Number one, it needs to be scalable, right?
Yes.
When you're investing in venture capital, what does venture capital mean? It means you're investing in a business at a stage that you think that it will escalate much faster than
with money.
Than normal businesses. So for example, you can invest in Microsoft today and you'll probably get 5, 6, 7% return per year, right? That's a standard good investment, blue chip, fantastic. But when you're investing in VC, you're investing in VC, you're looking to do, 10, 20, 30x, right? That's what you want to do. And the earlier you go, the higher potential you have.
And the risk is also higher.
And the risk is there. So I always say, if you're going to invest in something, you should also be passionate about it. Which means if you're investing in early stage, you probably want to get your hands dirty a little bit. If you're an angel investor and you see value, so let's say, for example, Drow today is doing a business in making some kind of state-of-the-art, candles, okay? If I'm a passionate person about candles, I should invest with you and I should help you in the business and I can see what I can do to expand the business. So the first thing is see what kind of value you can add. So not just cash. Capital is easy. It's not hard to get capital these days. But you need value in the business. You need to say, listen, I can help you get that contact, or I can help advise you. So that's the first thing. The second thing on the early stage also is to look at the fundamentals of the business. Is it solving a problem and is it scalable, right? So for example, if you tell me that there's a problem here in the UAE, I might invest in it. But if it doesn't apply around the world, then at one point I'm going to hit a ceiling, right? I'm going to say, listen, that's the best that I can do, and I'm going to stop there. And sometimes that market could be big enough. But in general, for VCs, we try not to do that. And then the thing that you mentioned also too important is the founders.
Yes.
The founder,
the team behind.
Yeah. The founder has to have a good team. So usually what I like to see in a team are 3 main elements, which is, again, none of this is rocket science. This is all just very basic information. But you should have a good leader. You should know somebody who understands the tech around the product, who can build it and understand it. And the third thing is you should have somebody who really understands how to actually sell the product, go out there and understand how to expand the business, right? Those are the 3 things that you need. Everything else, like your finance, you can farm that out.
Yes.
Right? Your marketing, you can farm that out, right? But talking to your customer, no. You need someone from your organization to do that. A leader, no, you can't hire a CEO, right? Like you can, but as a startup, you need a CEO who's committed, who is vested in the business, who sees this as their full-time job and is ready to rock and roll with this and give it their 100%.
Or 1,000%, because sometimes 100 is not
Well,
enough.
that's something else too, is that we don't like to work, not we don't like to, but we frown upon working with founders who are doing 10 things.
Yeah.
Right? You should do one thing really well. And you can always do a couple small things on the side, but you should really do one thing really
hobbies,
well.
More hobbies than 3 full-time jobs.
Exactly. So those are the main things that we look at. So scalability, the team, and the market. Those are the 3 main things that we look at on the early stage. Now on the late stages, which what we also do is we also help support businesses that are pre-Series A or they're maybe getting ready to go to IPO and they want to expand their business, right? But obviously, like, let's say, I'll give you an example, like someone in China, right? They don't understand the market here. They don't know the market here. They're interested in it. It's not a huge market, but it's still a decent chunk. Like it's not a tiny market here, but they need help navigating, right? So you get them involved. You find out what they're good at. You look at the gaps here in the market. You look at what we can do here. Maybe set up a JV, potential pilot, work with the government. I mean, there's so many things that you can do, but you need to hold their hand and guide them through that process.
Yes.
And that's what we do too.
Basically, so you work more with like companies from Asia, bring companies
Correct,
from
yeah.
Asia to the Middle East. Right now, which opportunities do you see for these companies? There is any specific industries, sectors? We talk a lot about AI, but is AI
So I'll
already
answer
in the
that
ceiling, or
so
there is
I'll
space?
answer that in two parts, and I'll give you the first one.
Yes.
AI is not an industry. It's like
Yes.
saying
It's
the
like
internet is an industry,
technology,
right?
yes.
The internet is not an industry,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's just the internet. So AI is one of those things. It's just AI, right?
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. We have focused predominantly on a couple of areas for us, which is decentralization, which is things around Web3 and blockchain, the technology behind that, not necessarily on the crypto side, but more on the underlying technology of blockchain. Decarbonization, so everything around sustainability, anything that we can do around food, biotech, anything about how we better the way that we live. And then third is kind of, I don't want to say agnostic, but just impact related, right? How do we push businesses that can scale, add value, and just improve the lives that we have? That's what we focus on. Now, if you want to talk about what's happening in the region here, based on the conflict, the agenda has shifted.
Yeah.
So, key things. Number one, food security. Right? This is one of the most important things that is across the region, not just the UAE, right? Because obviously, with supply chain issues and everything that's happening right now, food is one of the most important
And also
things.
because they want to be more autonomous about it, not depend
Reliant,
on,
yeah.
rely on anyone.
But see, I always push it by saying, let's go beyond that. Why are we talking about just feeding ourselves? Why can't we export our products, right? Again, we're not reinventing the wheel here,
No.
right? So that I would say would be one of the main important things. The second one, which is very important, is also around defense and maritime. So everything around how do we protect the bodies of water around us? How do we look at technologies to help that? And again, focus on defense, not offense.
Yeah.
And then the third thing, which I think is going to be probably the biggest thing over the next 3 to 5 years, is not necessarily around healthcare, but about the quality of life and life longevity,
yes.
which is very important. Which is saying is that how do we push people's lives further?
Lifespan.
Right?
Yeah.
Lifespan, but also quality of life,
Yeah.
right? Like I don't want to live until 100, but knowing that the last 10 years of my life are going to be horrible.
No.
Right?
It's like 100 and you feel like you are 60, 70.
Exactly. So, and I think this is going to come a lot around genetics. And there's already a lot in Asia that is working around genetics. So I'll give you an example, which is actually really cool. In China, you are not allowed to do any kind of research or lab work around or with the Chinese and export any of that data. Genetics, DNA is illegal to export from China. That's how important I think this is going to be for the future. The idea of genetics and DNA. And then when you integrate AI into that, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's going to be insane.
Yes.
But China has said from now, that is our data. You are not allowed to use it. So I think those are the three main areas that are going to be really exciting. And look, you already see in the UAE that they're leading in the decentralization. So they have RIRA, they're already doing crypto, they're doing Web3,
Yes, long time ago.
and they're already focused on commercializing and putting assets on the chain. So that's happening. You then see, of course, AI. I mean, that's not an industry. And then, of course, defense. Defense, they've put a lot of spending, and this is one of their big things that they're focusing on because they don't want to rely on anybody. Forget whether it's East or West.
Yeah. They want to be independent 100% to not to be
And of course, this is a very long ambition. This is not something that will happen in 1 or 2
from
years.
one day to
This will take at least a
10.
decade or
Yes.
two. But they're bringing in the right partners. You see what's happening, everything on their defense side. So it's going to be interesting.
You're working for a long time with investments, private investments, corporate, government, and do you feel that the last years are different from the last 10? So what I want to say is the market is changing much faster the recent years because of the technology, especially because of the technology. And do you feel that has impact on the way that investors they behave, they want their results? So what is the difference, for example, from the last 2 years comparing to the last 10 years that we work with this?
So I'll answer that in two parts, and I'll address the first, the latter first. Number one is, yes, investors now are very commercially driven. VC is a bit challenging now because a lot of folks don't want to wait 7 to 8 years
Yes.
for their money.
They
right?
want like 1, 2
They're
years.
like, listen, a year, 2 years max, but I want returns quickly. So that's the first thing, and that's changed, and the market with VC will always evolve based on what's happening around us in terms of technology, in terms of the problems that we're solving today. On the flip side, what I find interesting also is that investing in this space now is now being democratized, which means, through the markets that we have right now, through blockchain, people can easily have access to these companies, right? Companies that, you would have never heard about years ago, right? Or even heard about because there was no internet or there was no data or there was no nothing. Now you can find these companies and you can invest in them. You can put $500 into them. You know what I mean? Which I think is going to be interesting, and it's going to see us grow the market much stronger.
So we hear a lot about growing relationship between the China and the GCC, but where are you seeing real cooperation rather than just announcements? Where are the true strength of the relationship between the two markets?
Well, look, I can tell you that when the conflict happened, His Excellency the Crown Prince went to China, took all the biggest businessmen from the UAE. I think they signed I think it was above 20 different agreements. And not even that, like what was interesting, even Etihad had launched 6 new destinations to China in 6 months.
Yeah.
That's unheard of, right? They only had 2 or 3 before. They add another 6. So the government is facilitating, right? Folks like myself, folks like you, on saying, hey, we're going to build a platform for you guys, but the private sector has to come together. The private sector needs to build and see the value between our countries and how we can solve the problems. So the first part is the government has now laid the foundation. On the flip side, we are working personally with certain scale-ups and startups from a region that we have in Hong Kong and Shenzhen. So obviously Shenzhen is in China and Hong Kong is in Hong Kong.
Yes.
And what they've done is they have now built a new tech park, and I hope I'm not butchering it. I think it's called Hentai or Hontao, something like that. And it is built on the physical border of Shenzhen and Hong Kong. Now, what has happened in the last, let's say, 5-10 years with China? China has always said, you build something, you keep it in China. All the IP stays in China. Nothing goes out, right? That's why they have their own TikTok. They have their own Facebook. Everything is Chinese. Everything is Chinese. Cool. Now, that's been great for them because now they've developed their own IP. They've developed their own products. There's a challenge though. Because you have boxed in all these companies, right, in one market, now they're all fighting for the tiniest little shares of the market. So what has China done? China has said, okay, now we're going to build this park. It's on the border of Shenzhen. Any company in China who has good business, who wants to expand, you can now go from China, enter this park, okay, get a license there, set up there, and folks like us, like we have an office there, Lenovo has an office there, and I think Alibaba has an office there, and our responsibility is to scale them out and have them take their products and their businesses and scale outside. This is the first time China has done this in the last 2 decades. And when you look at what they're doing with this and the opportunities is that you're looking at valuations drought that are like maybe 20% of what the US is. So AI companies in China today, okay, are 20% the cost of what the US is. 20%.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that all these platforms like Kimi, Quen, all of them, they're all at least 90% cheaper than using Anthropic or whatever it is. And they're just expanding and they're just growing. So the opportunities between China and the Middle East are huge. First of all, we have one of the youngest populations in the world. We have about 70% of our population is under the age of 30, which is unheard of compared to, let's say, the West.
Yeah.
Portugal is a complete disaster.
Even when you go to Portugal, you see old people in the streets everywhere.
Exactly. So you have a very young population. You have disposable income. It's safe. People want to come live here. Okay. So for a market for them is amazing. Now, of course, when you speak to a Chinese company, you look at the opportunities between these regions, you still say MENA is still a small market. However, with what the region has done in terms of logistics and connectivity, you've said to these companies, hey, come set up here. Yeah, we're a small market. We're a couple 100 million people.
But then it's also like a transition to another market.
You need to think about
Africa.
Within 6 hours from the UAE, you have access to 2 billion people, right? And again, it's not just about the physical location of where we are. It's also about the connectivity.
Yeah.
Look at the ports that we have. Look at the airlines that we have.
Everything.
Look at the legislation that we have to come say, set up in Dubai and you can export to Ghana tomorrow. 5 minutes. So they facilitate that by saying you're not just coming for us. You're coming for the MENA region. You're coming for Saudi. You're coming for Egypt. You're coming for Turkey because everything is within 3-4 hours.
Yeah, it's the ecosystem they created.
Exactly. Right. But you're saying come live in an amazing place. Come live in a place where you have laws that protect you.
Yes.
Right. Old style British laws, English laws. Right. That's not available, for example, in Lebanon. That's not available, for example, in Egypt. Right. It's only available in the UAE. It's not even available in Saudi.
Yes.
I mean, they say
kind
it is,
of, but yeah.
It's not like here, right? Here you can literally shop around. There's like 20 different free zones. Find the right one for you. You know what I mean?
And the taxation as well.
Yeah, of course. So there's still like I think the next 5 to 10 years is going to see a huge amount of opportunity between. And by the way, when we say China, it's not just China. It's Asia.
Asia in general, yes.
Like Korea is right now doing amazing. They're doing amazing.
On top of the world right
and
now.
they're expanding, right? I think Japan is going to pick up. And I think that the dark horse in the race right now, if you know who it is, it's Vietnam.
Yeah.
So I've spent the last year, probably every few months I'm in Vietnam. We've been closing up like our partnership and now it's been signed. We're done. We announced it about 3 weeks ago. Where we'll have we have a full base and a local partner in Vietnam, amazing folks. And when I go to Vietnam now, it's like, this is like China like 10 years ago, right? This is like I was saying, like the wild, wild west.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be interesting and see how that develops. And look, I love being in those frontier markets. So you ask me like, what do I do? My responsibility is to go to Vietnam and say, what's the opportunity?
Yeah. Right? So basically your mission is to connect.
Yeah.
But you connect different cultures with different references, with different right and wrong. How you manage all of these things? For you negotiate with like someone from China or from Arab, Middle East or South Korea or Europe is totally different. So how you know how to do that? How you manage that?
I mean, there's a couple of fundamentals to that. So first of all, it needs to be real. As in, if you're trying to push for the CSR and the pictures and like, you know, the big names, it's not very sustainable. It will look great in Instagram and on the videos, but there's no sustainable business there, right? There's no real impact and value. If you can't showcase real value, then you shouldn't bother at all. So I'll give you an example. The first time I went to our new office in Hong Kong, the Hantao one, again, I'm sorry if I'm butchering the name. There were 10 companies that they were the first ones to sign up. And I met one of them, young guy, probably younger than me and you. I'm not calling you old. But young guy, maybe in his 30s. And he's like, yeah, I'm looking to expand. I want to expand out of China. So I started asking about him. His company name is called Top Gun. Okay.
And
he is a drone manufacturer. And the drones that they manufacture are like industrial zones for like logistics, medical care, fire, all these things. And I asked him like, so, tell me about your company. He's like, yeah, we're a very small company. We don't do too much. He's like, our sales last year were only about $27 million in sales last year.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how long have you been around?
Yes.
He's like, we've been around for like 5 years.
Yeah. It's different market.
Right? So I look at that company and then I'm like, hey, so what's going, he's like, yeah, but he's like, now we want to leave China. We want to expand. He's like, we want to expand because in China, the margins are just cutthroat. We can't make any money. There's 100 Top Guns. Okay? So I look at that and I'm like, okay, well, this guy has something to offer, right? He has the ability to manufacture. He's done it before. He's done 26 million in revenue last year, which means he's obviously doing something right.
Yeah.
Right? So I look at that. Then I look at what's happening here in the conflict. And I'm like, well, we need support in terms of drones. And here we want to be reliant. So how can we extract that person's know-how? And again, this is all civilian, right? We're not talking about anything here like nothing in like military, right? But how do we use that company, the guy from Top Gun, and say, well, why don't you come set up in the Middle East? Why don't you come set up in the UAE? And here we can probably get you some free land or some subsidized land, subsidized power, set up your factory, and then you can maybe sell to the local market, and then you can also export.
Yeah. Give him the conditions.
Exactly. But it's the details that you have to go through between the government side and then the other side, right? So the government's like, yeah, we'll give you A, B, and C. But nothing in the world is for free, right? But then the Asian side says, yeah, we're happy to come set up, but we're not just going to come set up for nothing. We need guaranteed POs, right? We need to ensure that if we do all of this, for let's say 3 years, you'll take 50% of our production, for example, right? So these are the things that you need to manage the expectations and equate that value, right? I can easily get that guy on a plane here tomorrow and get him in a picture with one of the sovereign funds and say, yeah, we're signing an MOU. Fantastic. But you need to go past the MOU. You need to go into the details of saying, what does he exactly need?
Expectations.
Right?
Yes.
What are the expectations? And then what does this look like in 5 years or in 10 years? Right? Where's the investment? Because everyone thinks that people just come here for money. No. Most people don't need money. Like Chinese companies don't need money. They have tons of capital, right? But they need the value, right? They need someone to say, I will help you build the factory. I'll invest with you and I'll take 3 years of your production. Signed. Of course they'll come, right? So that's what we work on, right? Like how do we create that value and make sure that everyone's happy? If you don't go through the details and it's just CSR, then it's just a waste of time.
And you feel that the culture of the person has impact on their expectations?
100%. 100%. The Asian culture is so different from us here.
Yeah.
You have no idea.
Tell me about this.
It's almost like a human to an alien. And not in a bad sense. It's just that
it's different.
It's different. So I'll give you an example. I was once sitting in a majlis. And I can't say who was there, but they were talking about how they brought on a vendor, they're in oil and gas and they're Chinese. And he's like, yeah, they don't know how to work with us. They don't know how to talk. It's so challenging. And I said to him, listen, you need to understand something. The Chinese are 1.4 billion people, right? It was never insinuated that the Chinese need to speak English. Why do they speak English? Shouldn't we learn Chinese? Right? They're 1.4 billion people, and they're coming to you to work with you, and you want and you want them to learn Arabic, for example?
Yes.
Or even learn English. No, you should learn their language. They're 1.4 billion people, right? So there's a lot of cultural things that are very different between, our culture and their culture. You know what I mean? The Chinese are also very, very commercial oriented, right? So it's like a sit down, let's talk, let's business. Yeah, we'll do a bit of guangxi, like we can have some, karaoke nights and dinners. But at the end of the day, it's
business.
It's brass taxes.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Don't waste my time, and I'm not going to waste yours. So that has been challenging, but it's really changing. And I'll give you a personal example. Like my own son, he takes Chinese twice a week, right? I have no intention for my son as a priority to say he should be educated in the West. Why?
Why? Yes. Why?
For what reason?
Yes.
Is the West going to come up with something new that is going to
No,
be
no, no, no,
revolutionary?
no, no, no.
Probably not.
Not anymore.
But I know that my son, if he speaks English, Arabic,
And Chinese,
he
he's in the
pretty
top
much
of the
has
world.
he has any opportunity he wants.
Of course.
And my job as a parent is to make sure that he has those opportunities, right? So even like, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, in public schools in the UAE, second language taught is Chinese.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting.
So this is the future, and it's our and it's our responsibility to say, how do we commercialize on this, right? And how do we see the value that comes from Asia to come to the Middle East?
And you look very good. You look very in a good stage on your life. What is your next plans for the future?
So for me right now, I'm hopefully going to be launching. I can't say the name, but there is a very prominent Asian conglomerate. We call them one of the big seven, which is like the Magic Seven for China, similar like Facebook and
Okay.
right.
Excellent.
And we aim to launch a fund that will bring in some of the best companies from China predominantly in AI to come and establish themselves here, expand the market, and get involved. So that's for me personally. But overall, I mean, look, this conflict has created a lot of opportunities, right? It's shown what the gaps are, and not just the UAE, for the region as a whole. So once you start seeing those gaps, you see a lot of great opportunities, right? And everyone's going to wake up and they're going to move faster. And our job is to be there to help them.
Yeah, and I also feel, at least from my professional and personal experience, that there are a lot of people, they gone, but it was like a good filter, because right now
100%.
the crowd that are here, the people that are here, is not just looking for the quick money, but it's because they want to build something.
100%.
So this is, I think, even for people, they are like, I don't know if from Europe or US or whatever, if they are like, should I go or not? I think this is the right moment to invest and to create, because there are a lot of opportunities.
And I had this conversation actually in another podcast with my colleague Levi. He's from Seattle, and I asked him what do you think about the supposed exodus? And he's like, listen, I think it's a good thing, because at the end of the day, the folks who have stayed, folks like myself and you, we are the builders.
Yeah, we are resilient.
We are the ones who are building what needs to get built, right?
Yes.
And the folks who left, and I say this with like my son, I said there's two types of folks. There's people who are the givers and the takers.
Yes.
Right? And
you mentioned that to me as well.
I've always tried to be a giver, okay? And I'm not saying I'm perfect, but the folks who left are the folks who are the takers.
Yes,
these are
100%.
the folks who have come here to say, I'm willing, I just want to take. And
I
the
just
folks
want
who
to
have
take the
stayed,
money. Yes.
the folks who are saying, no, we believe in this. This
is our home.
Yeah, exactly. And
We
we
feel
genuinely
part of
believe
it.
it. Like it's not a marketing campaign. Like I'm not getting paid to say any of this.
100%. Actually, I was invited twice to go to CNN Portugal to speak about what's happening in the region. And every time I went, my family and my friends said, "Oh, you are crazy! How you are happy and say that everything is fine and there is missiles and everything." I was like, "But this is the media. The reality is different, you know." So
like
it's
they
very
keep on
interesting.
showing the same, attacks or whatever it is that were like 6 months ago. It's like that was in March. That's not happening now. So it is what it is. I think that we'll definitely get past this and we'll come out stronger. But I think it'll be interesting to see also how the GCC countries all come out differently.
Yes, for 100%. It will be very different the way they respond to that and how they develop. And I think the government has a huge part on it.
100%. And it's actually really interesting. I was in the airport yesterday leaving, coming home, and I was on the phone with my son, and I'm like, you know what, Joe? I'm like, I think I could actually write a book. Because I've worked with Bahrain, I've worked with Saudi, I've worked with Oman, I've worked with every GCC country.
Next step.
And I can tell you that I've learned so much about how they're all you know what's crazy, Joao, is that they're all so different, but they're all one family. They're all related to each other. They all have similar roots of how they started. How Bahrain was the first country to get oil, and then it was Saudi, and and it's unbelievable how much I've learned in the last 10 years. And I'm telling you, I think I should actually write a book.
No, I think you should. Now you made a promise. To finish this podcast, I have a quick questions for you. Okay. So, morning person or night owl?
Morning or night?
Yes.
Morning.
Morning. Me too. One country that inspires you the most.
China.
And in China, any specific city or? Because it's very different, right?
It's extremely different. There's over 1,500 dialects in China alone. What I love about China and why I picked China is one very simple thing. What I saw in the last 20 years of social mobility, of where the people were of China and where they are now, I think it's remarkable.
I don't know if I mentioned to you, but my favorite city in the world is Shanghai.
Oh, of course. Shanghai
I've
is
been
one of
in
the best.
Shanghai and I was like in love, you know. And
But I would say for me it's Hong Kong.
Hong
But that's
Kong.
because I'm
But
born
I
and raised
never
there.
been in Hong Kong.
Hong Kong is like
Yeah.
again, it's probably my favorite city in the world.
One entrepreneur that you admire.
My dad.
A book or a movie that changed your life, your perspective of life.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I don't have. If it's books, I would say that I was. No, if it's movies, I would say probably most influential.
Top Gun.
No. I wouldn't say Top Gun. I would probably say The Godfather.
The Godfather.
Because The
yes.
Godfather illustrates how loyalty is very important.
Right, is very important.
Loyalty is very, very important.
Yeah. One habit that you couldn't live without.
I don't one personal habit of mine.
Yes, that you like go to the gym or like something that you.
Cooking. I love to cook.
Oh,
I have
so
to
it's in
cook.
the family. One word that for you defines leadership.
Consistency.
I think consistency is the.
You need to be I tell my kids it's consistency
the most important.
and it's character.
Yeah.
You need to have a good character. The one thing that if anyone can take from this podcast is that if you build a career and you build it on really, and I'm not trying to just sound nice, but really on value and honesty. That's the most important thing. You can hit some amazing things in your life, but at the end you want to be known for the race that you did. And the marathon you need to be consistent and you need to be honest, right? Like, I don't think we're in a world today where you can BS your way through things. Like, you know what I mean? People can see through whether you're genuine or whether
not.
you're just talking,
Yes.
smack.
And especially now. I think like 20 years ago, 30 years ago was much easier to not be on.
Like, I'll give you a
But
perfect
right
example.
now-
We I met yesterday with some folks from the government of Kuwait, and I told them, listen, the one thing that makes Brinc different is that we don't work with folks and say, okay, well, we'll send our team from Dubai or from no. If we're gonna come work with you guys, we're gonna come here. We're gonna set up an office. We're gonna hire locals. We're gonna bring in our team, and we're gonna get to work. And we tell them, this is not there's no silver bullet here. You're not gonna see changes in 6 months. We're here for the long term, and we're here to do the work with you. And I think a lot of companies don't do that today.
And about consistency, apply for everything.
Yeah.
You just have results if you go to the gym, if you have
100%.
consistency. On your health,
100%.
it's not eat health once, right? It's consistency.
And I can say that I've only learned that.
Business.
I've only learned that, to be honest with you, I'd say probably like 2 years ago, when I got myself into much healthier. I started exercising more, and back in the day, it's like you would exercise like once a week,
It's not enough.
or once a month, and you're like, oh, I went to the gym. No, you need to go
Consistent.
every day, even if it's 30 minutes.
Yeah, if
and
you
you
just
won't
walk
see, and you
around.
won't see the results for a while.
Yeah.
Right? But when you do see the results, those results stay because you've been consistent.
And even with the marketing is the same
100%.
thing. With everything, consistent is the key
100%.
for success.
100%.
So what success means to you?
On a business or on a personal level?
I think it's the same, right?
Look, on a personal level, I just want my family to be raised well. They have a good future, and success for me is that I've equipped them with the tools that they need to go out to the world and provide impact. Right? There's nothing wrong with doing something good and making money. Right? You can always do something good and you can make money. It's not a zero-sum game. On the business side, I mean, I'd love to see our team grow. We're like 85 people now. I think, I'd love to see us grow, provide more value, and expand more. I think what would be really cool, which is probably the next frontier, and I joke with Manav, who's my partner, about this, is that maybe the next place I'm going to is Africa. But maybe, we'll see.
Let's see. And the last question, one thing that people would be surprised to know about you.
Surprised to know about me.
Yes.
I'm a pretty open book. People know everything about me, but people usually when they see me, they are always surprised when I say that I'm, from Damascus, my parents are there, and I'm born in Hong Kong and I grew up in Canada. So people have a lot of question marks when they meet me, and if I run through that CV, they're like, "Who the hell is this guy? This doesn't make any sense." So that's probably the biggest surprise.
And also origin from Syria as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So from Damascus, born in Hong Kong, went to Canada, lived in China, and now in the Gulf.
Yeah.
So that's
Bahrain,
probably the biggest
Aboudaoud.
surprise. Yeah, that's probably the biggest surprise.
Yasin, thank you so much.
Thank
it was very nice conversation.
Thank you very much.
I think it was very meaningful insights for people. And thank you so much to be here. Follow us, comment, and share this podcast. Thank you.